Now more on how Trump is reaching out to so-called establishment Republicans and how some of them are responding. New York Times political reporter Ashley Parker is here. She wrote an article, the one I mentioned earlier here on this newscast. This is kind of mixed.
Yeah.
Responses.
Yeah, absolutely. But he knows he has to reach out to Republicans, and they've sort of been quietly doing that behind the scenes. And now that he sort of kind of unexpectedly basically has the nomination wrapped up, you're going to see that totally ramping up, reaching out to think tank people, reaching out to consultants. I've heard of him reaching out to operatives from rival campaigns, reaching out to members of Congress, doing all of that. And then also sort of talking about internal strategy. How do you ramp up from this lean, scrappy operation to become a general election candidate?
I read that the amount of money that was being raised this time in the last cycle by Mitt Romney, an enormous amount of money. It sounds like they're behind.
Yeah, they certainly are. That's funny. That's a story I'm working on now. But if you look at Romney, one of the reasons is he was governor of Massachusetts. He had a donor network from that. He ran in 2008. He built the network then. In 2012, he did not self-fund in the primary. And so Donald Trump is basically, not only is he starting from zero, literally starting from scratch, but he's about to try to woo donors for, who for the past 10 months he's been saying, I don't need them, I don't like you, you make people dishonest. So it's going to be a tough pitch to kind of go turn to these people and say, but come on and give me some money.
You wonder how his base, this Donald Trump crowd that's, I mean, they're all in, and they don't like the establishment, and they don't like the big money, and you wonder how that's going to play with them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that turns them off at all, or if Donald Trump can sort of make the pitch, which I heard him saying before recently, I don't want to have to sell off one of my hotels to run a campaign if that's a compelling pitch. Or maybe you'll see them pitching in more. And trying to help. And you might see Donald Trump using social media not just as a megaphone to sort of tweet out photos and messages, but to actually reach small dollar donors and see if he can bring them in as well.
You're right about how he's come to the establishment and said, I get it that there's some norms I have to follow. But as you also mentioned, he's really running a non-ideological kind of campaign. You wonder how they're going to work that out. I wonder who you talk to on the establishment side to dot your I's and cross your T's.
I mean, it's an interesting question, because on the one hand, I think they are reassured when he comes to them and says, I recognize that I need your help, whether it's on ground game or data or delegates or just sort of institutional know-how, right? I've only been a politician for less than a year. I think they like that. I think they're also, some of them, not all of them, but are a little confused. One of the things about his pitch that's so compelling is it's sort of an anti-Washington, very populist, anti-trade pitch, but it is not a typical Republican pitch, and there are some people who are just not going to be able to sign on with him for that reason, and we saw that as early as when he wrapped up the nomination.
Republicans have always, it's an old trite saying now that Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line, and usually they manage to. Even there was a lot of consternation around Reagan at the very beginning, but everybody came together, and in hindsight, they're glad they did. I just wonder if it's going to happen this time.
Yeah, I sort of wonder, too. I think it's an interesting question. The one thing I will say is, I mean, you have people saying right now, I'm with her, I'm with Hillary, I'm not going to fall in line. But as Donald Trump knows, winning begets winning. And so if he can show he has a compelling path to beat Hillary, as one of his advisors told me, nothing unifies the party more than defeating Hillary Clinton. You might get some sort of slow, begrudging falling in line.
Nose holding.
Exactly, yeah.
The article's a good one. It's Ashley Parker from the New York Times. It's at nytimes.com right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.